Chuck, great to have you here.
Yes,
Thanks for tuning in early doors.
thank you for having me.
Most of you know Chuck, but just for those that don't, he's a stop frame animator. He's a CG animator. I met him first on Frankenweenie, I do believe. I was wondering where you were, because you weren't on Corpse Bride, but maybe we'll get into that later. You've got a very, you see, the good thing about this, I'm finding out a lot about people. I thought I already knew you, but I'm finding out more and more stuff in common with the rest of the people I've spoken to. When you start digging down, you start finding out stuff. And I looked at your
That's
IMDb
scary.
page. Yeah, it's scary. There's loads of bad stuff. No, I was looking at your IMDb and it's like, it runs to 2 pages. Like there's a massive amount of stuff you've done that I hadn't realized. And
It's
a lot
old
more
age.
CG stuff as well that I wasn't even aware of. Is that someone's dog? No. Okay.
Oh, yeah, there is some weird construction going on outside my window.
Okay. Sounded like a dog drowning or something.
Yeah.
Um,
That's lunch.
I wanted to ask you, like, going back, I put this screen up, this Hoth shot behind me, because you sent me like a little link to the Tauntaun stop frame element of Empire Strikes Back, and you said that's where it all began for you. So I thought I'd throw that up and ask you,
Oh, cool.
what can you tell us about that moment? When was that?
Well, I guess, when was it? That was 1980. Was that 1980, Empire Strikes Back?
80, 81 or something, I think.
Yeah, somewhere around there. But yeah, it was in the theater, and you know, it was the first time that the stop motion was just getting this full like line recognition. You know, being in a Star Wars movie, and it just
Did you know it was stop frame when you saw it? Did you know what that was?
Oh yeah. I knew I was into stop motion way before that.
Okay.
So I actually, when I saw Star Wars for the first time, I saw the chess scene, and I thought that was Ray Harryhausen that did it.
Okay. Simon Quinn says it was 1980.
Oh, good. Excellent.
Because I saw those films, but I had no idea like what stop frame was. I just knew it was incredible, and I loved it, and I was, you know, it was just the most exciting thing ever to go and see those films. But
yeah,
I didn't know the process or the techniques at all until much later.
Yeah, I did a lot of research when I was like 13, 14, getting into it. Just because of the 7 Voyages of Sinbad, that was sort of my first introduction. So after that, I was just trying to research and trying to find out, you know, what it's all about and how do you do it. And the only way you could do that was through, you know, the library and magazines like Famous Monsters.
But it was really hard to find out about stuff like that. Yeah,
it was just through the magazines.
So you started animating stuff at home, like on Super 8. I saw a brilliant, the thing that I really loved was some of your Instagram posts over the last sort of year or so. Lots of Frankenweenie stuff, but also, was there one on there that had you scratched over Super 8 film with the little lightsabers?
Yeah. That was
brilliant.
That was done. That was like 79 or something when I did that. So those
that
were really old.
Pre-Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. I was doing animation from 76. That's when I started animating. In 76.
Wow. That was.
So yeah, I found some. The only things that I could study were I would go in the back of Famous Monsters magazine, and they were selling Super 8 films. And these are like the films that I would be studying,
Yeah.
like frame by frame. You know, this was my YouTube at the time. It took me a week to download these, you know, because you'd mail for them, and then you get them back like a week or 2 weeks later. So
you mentioned Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, because I've been looking into Phil Tippett stuff a bit, because obviously he animated that creature and a lot of Star Wars stuff. And that was his. He said the same thing that you said about Empire Strikes Back, that was the film that suddenly it was like, that's what I want to do, when he saw that in 1958.
You mean King Kong?
No, he said he watched Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, and that was his.
Oh, yeah. He always refers to King Kong first.
Okay.
But then he gets into the Sinbad films.
Yeah.
I think it's the same story, you know, for so many people, animators.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, like talking to Phil, Dale, and Drew, and people over the past few weeks, and Andy, it's either TV, cinema, it's the early years of like watching stuff and being inspired, and then deciding somehow, how can I find out about this and how can I get into it?
Yeah.
Sometimes different things, but the same basic tale of obsession.
Right. No, exactly. Yeah.
So what was your first professional job as an animator?
Well, I joined Will Vinton Studios. That was like in 1985, around there. And my first job was melting clay for all the animators.
Okay.
Because we would just, all the animators had different recipes, you know, like a recipe for raisin color and Noid color and just all these commercials that we were doing. Yeah. So I would get all these recipes, and I would just be melting clay for everybody. So I was kind of like a chef, basically.
An animator chef. But what about your first animation itself?
The first, it was for this TV commercial. They were doing Domino's pizza commercials in the States, and it involved this little red character called the Noid. And that was my first animation test that I did.
So it feels like Will Vinton's it sounds like that was the only place really shooting stop frame.
Well, it was there, especially on the West Coast. It was Will Vinton, but then over in New York, there was a studio called Olive Jar, and they were doing clay as well. But then, of course, there was Aardman, who were the masters.
Yeah.
So.
But did you know about that sort of stuff from over there?
Oh yeah. We knew about Aardman, and we were. I mean, Will was sort of. You know, he always wanted to be on that same level. You know.
Yeah.
Of the Aardman animation. And,
so I just want to show your show reel, because that's a really good intro into like all the diversity of what you've done. So
you're gonna show the whole thing?
Yeah, well, only lasts like 2 minutes, right?
I think it's longer than that. It's like the worst show reel ever. It's way too long. You know, show reel should be like what, 2 minutes or something, one minute maybe.
I'm going to show it anyway, Chuck. If it gets too long, I'm just going to cut in the middle of it.
Yeah, shut it off.
こんばんは、皆さん。クリスチャンの皆さん、こんばんは。今は私は、フランスのイルランというところにおります。
Hey, are you Ted?
Yeah?
I'd like to buy a fish.
Pull yourself together, for God's sakes. He's gonna love it. Go, go, go.
What are you wearing? Why a cape with the pants tucked into your socks?
Why didn't I get shot at? It's because you think I'm no good at anything! Well, maybe you're right. Thanks.
Contact!
No time to buy.
Oh, you get it out!
Hold it right there.
Oh, for Christ's sake!
Edward is here!
You son of a bitch!
So Chuck, that there's so much in there, and like you're one of the few. Most animators I know either stop frame or CG, and some people kind of dabble between the two. But you seem to be like fully ensconced in both areas. How did that? You started with stop frame, but you got into CG. How did that happen?
I think that it was right after James and the Giant Peach, and a movie called Mars Attacks was going to be stop motion. So I went down to Los Angeles and I checked out the studio, and Barry Purvis was actually the animation director on that. And he actually did a couple shots, little test shots with the Martians. So I checked it out, and we were in talks to, start up, and I think I was on the B team because everybody wanted to be on it. And then I went back to Portland, and then it got shut down because ILM did their little trick where they created a fully CG Martian and then showed it to Tim Burton. Yeah. And then he said, "Yeah, let's just do it all computer." So then it got shut down.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Yeah,
the UK side, because there are a lot of people I knew that were going out there to work and getting accommodation and setting things up, and it seemed like a massive blow at the time for the industry, a bit stop frame wise, and just individually people that were going to spend months or a couple of years working on that project.
Yeah,
which looked really cool.
Yeah, Well, it was that time when CG was slowly creeping in.
Yeah.
Um,
Did that make
and
you decide to get fully involved in it because you thought that that was going to be the end of stop frame?
well, it wasn't just that. The opportunities to actually learn the computer were pretty strong because the studios like ILM and PDI, somebody else, well, DreamWorks, PDI, but all the studios were sort of headhunting. They were
Right.
they were looking for animators to teach the computer because they had a bunch of tech guys that could, fly cameras around and kind of create environments, but they needed animators.
Yeah.
So they were spending a lot of money trying to find people. And when James and the Giant Peach shut down, there was all these animators ready to go somewhere.
Okay.
So all these studios were, getting in contact with animators and saying, come work for us or come work for us, and we'll give you, they were actually giving, signing bonuses.
Wow.
I heard one guy got $12,000.
Wow. Not you
Yeah.
though.
No, I lost money on the deal.
So you weren't, you kind of stepped into that, and obviously that sort of worked out well because you've got loads of CG stuff on your reel.
Yeah, I mean, it was perfect. It was sort of, it was school all over again, just going to class. ILM set up this little training trailer, and everybody was just sort of learning the computer. And
Sorry, Chuck. It's a kind of obvious one, but what do you prefer ultimately, or are they just too different to compare?
Yeah, they're. I like them both. I like it's sort of the stop motion is an aerobic workout. You're constantly going under a table or standing on a table and drilling and getting burnt by lights and.
Not on my sets.
Well.
Yeah. Okay, maybe.
But then when you go to the CG side, you're just sitting, and it's constantly, nothing's falling off the table. Your eyeballs aren't popping out of the puppets and rolling away. And, you have more control. You're going to basically do a lot, without having to worry about your environment, which I like.
I remember talking to Trey Thomas on Frankenweenie because he obviously does both as well, or did. I mean, I don't know what he's doing now, but
yeah, he joined Disney right after Peach, and he went to work on Dinosaur, I think it was.
But I remember him saying to me that he really prefers stop frame because there was this kind of committee thing with CGI that it just went on from, like, a shot would just never end because it would be constantly refined and changed, and months down the line you were still like noodling around with it, where he just liked the completeness and linear shape that a stop frame shot would take.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, in a stop frame shot, you'll get notes, and you might do the shot again, and you might do it again, but there's only a few times when you're retaking the shot. But yeah, CG shots can go on forever, right up until the day of delivery. You're still noodling with a finger that a director once placed differently. So it can get pretty frustrating, but it's still what comes out of it. I like what comes out of it CG wise.
And it's amazing now because I remember that period thinking the same sort of thing, because I was just shooting stop frame series and stuff and thinking, well, that's it really. That's the end of stop frame. And CG's come along, and also Toy Story came out. So that was like a massive, seemed like an incredible thing, but a bit of a nail in the coffin as well. At the same time, you think, well, time to do something different.
I know, but it's funny that every time we work on a stop motion film, we say, well, that's the last one, and we're still working on them today. So
long may it continue.
Yeah.
So I guess you were looking at your awesome IMBD list. You were busy doing something else at the time of Corpse Bride, because you didn't. Obviously, we had like a raft of US animators coming over, and you weren't one of them.
Yeah, I joined up with Phil Tippett Studios, and we were working on The Matrix.
Okay.
So I think I wanted to just sort of get my foot planted in a studio.
Before Frankenweenie, you did Fox, obviously, which I wasn't on. How did you find that? I mean, I don't know because I wasn't there. So what was that like?
I really liked it. There were a couple animators that worked on it that found it pretty difficult just sitting around.
Yeah.
We would have to wait for a long time till a shot was ready. And then when we actually did the shot, Wes didn't like too much movement, really. I mean, he had he had a very specific look that he wanted to achieve with the animation. So, the setup and the lighting and the set dressing, everything took hours and hours, but the animation could take, like, you'd walk in and blow on the puppet, get the fur moving, and then you were done.
Yeah.
So it was frustrating on some shots, because you really wanted to animate, because these puppets were, they're incredible puppets, and they were dying to be moved, but sometimes you just couldn't move them.
So talking of stop frame films, I wanted to jump on to talk about Frankenweenie, which was a good while after, and when we first worked together. How did that come about for you?
Well, I was working on Rango at the time at ILM, and then Trey called. Okay. And said there's this great movie, with Tim Burton. So you got to come over. Seemed to be just full blast from the minute you started. It didn't seem like there was a ramp up. It just seemed like it was on the go the minute you got there.
So I've got another little clip. I actually just chopped out a couple of things. One scene that we worked on, the Edgar kind of sequence.
Oh, cool.
And some Dutch Day sort of chase thing, just as a couple of nice chunks. So I'm gonna do my sharing thing.
Hey boy, how you doing? You'll be my partner, right, Victor? Because you have to have a partner for the science fair, and whoever's your partner is going to win. You know the most about science, so pick me as a partner. I have lots of ideas. We can make a death ray.
It says no death rays, see?
Aw, man. I still want to do it. Come on, who else would be your partner? You don't have friends, and neither do I.
I'm sorry, Edgar. I just don't need a partner. I like to work alone.
So Chuck, I kind of liked putting those two chunks side by side, because I don't know how you feel about Edgar, because you had to animate him, but I always really loved that character, and I really enjoyed seeing him sort of evolve and come to life during that quite early on. I think we shot that little sequence where he's in the garden with Sparky and Edgar turns up.
Yeah.
Was that I can't remember if there was a lot of Edgar shot before that, but did you? I wanted to know how you got on with that character and how you sort of try and create animation out of a character. And obviously, you're involved talking to Mark Waring's here and other people.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of input and discussion and testing and development. But then ultimately, you get to sit down or stand up with the character, and you have to make something from it. And I just wondered if you could talk that through a little bit.
Yeah, I remember that because it was sort of the first go with Edgar, or trying to find him, who he was.
Yeah.
And basically you just start off with the dialogue. You kind of get a full sense of the character from the way he speaks, and but then you get the breakdown from Mark, of what Edgar's supposed to be like, and his thoughts and everything, and then you just start animating, do reference and all that stuff, but you start animating, and then you get the visit, from Trey.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
No, I mean, and that's when you knew you were either on track or you weren't. And I remember that Trey came in and he was pretty excited about it, because it was going in the right direction, and he said, yeah, I think this is Edgar and stuff like that. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you just kind of feel for that character. It was just kind of, you feel it out, and what works, and what doesn't, you found out about it. Yeah, you'd play around in the test area and try to come up with walks and how he because he had this freaky hand that was long. One hand had these crazy long fingers. So we weren't sure how much we were going to try to emphasize his deformity, or if we should hide it, or.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that there's a bit of a balance there, right? To
go
too far.
Yeah.
I remember that sequence was pretty tricky as well, because we had some technical stuff, like Edgar was getting closer and closer and closer and closer to the lens, and unlike my laptop, we're much more limited for focus, so we actually swapped out for a old Zeiss Flectagon like lens that brilliantly, like Mark Swanfield had in his bag, that wasn't even it wasn't really off the shelf, that we even had supposed to have had in the studio. But yeah, every time we did another shot, Trey just wanted to get closer and closer and closer to, which was great, because he was really into the drama and the wide angle, and
oh yeah,
I think what made that film, in cinematography terms, Trey was really good at pushing you to get the characters really close and go low, and ended up cutting a lot of holes out of sets that were never really planned for, just to get the camera sort of buried in the ground looking up for all the big dramatic stuff, which really, it stands up really well, I think.
Yeah, he had a lot of a lot of control over that. I mean, it seems like Tim Burton let him go.
Yeah,
much,
yeah. What was nice, then we jumped to like the second half of that chunk of stuff that we showed, and you're in Dutch Day, and Edgar's like facing the kind of the comeuppance of, because he was sort of embroiled in like spilling the beans on Victor's plans and letting it slip that he'd brought his dog back to life. So then he's facing the kind of consequences of all of those monsters on the running amok. Was it? I remember those shots being pretty difficult to work out, because I mean each one was its own huge setup, right?
I remember the pain of those sea monkey shots, because we would shoot them all at once. It wasn't green screening each one, or we had like 14 sea monkeys bouncing around, and They were all on rigs. Oh, Tim Ledbury, you know Tim Ledbury,
Yeah.
our
VFX one.
yeah. I feel so bad for him because I just didn't care about if a rig crossed an arm or if a rig. I was so bad at that, and he was so mad at me. But he's on my Instagram, so at least.
Is he made up with you now?
I don't know. Maybe he's just stalking. I don't know.
But you work together. We all work together again on Isle of Dogs, so you know.
Yeah. No, he's great. It's just I feel so bad that I delivered shots that I just knew he was going to have such a hard time. He would come onto the set occasionally, and just to remind me that a rig shouldn't be in front of the guy's face.
I've actually got a really good, I don't know whether to show this. I guess, yeah, I've got a really good sequence that shows all of that, what you're talking about. Shall I just...
Oh, good, okay.
I'm going to throw it up. So what this is I think I actually stole it from Tim Ledbury. Hopefully it's not. But I mean, he stole it from Frankenweenie in a way.
I remember that that's what was so stressful about that film, was that all of those huge shots were saved for like the end of the production. It seemed like the windmill burning down and all of that action with the villagers going to burn the place down. There was just so much to do.
Yeah.
At
And
the
also,
very end of the show.
they were inevitably, because it was a big action sequence, they were very cutty, and there was a low frame return for the amount of setup time.
Yeah.
What I love about that is just you kind of, when you see the final film now, you forget about a lot of that stuff and how it was rigged and how shots were comped together and different shots and stuff, elements that are all mixed up. One shot might take, 6, 7 or more passes of different elements.
You get the same problems with CG. It's just that you're more comfortable just because you're sitting, basically.
Okay.
All day, which is, and you could eat, you can snack, and just don't have to worry about touching a puppet with, cheese fingers. And you could just, you get fat when you do CG. It's good. It's the same troubles. I think it's worse in CG, just the notes. You get so many notes from 5 different people. And everybody has their own idea of what it should look like. And so the thing about CG, you do your first blocking pass in CG, and that's pretty much yours. You can keep that. That's the best you're going to get as a performance from yourself, because when you see it on the screen, it's just no longer your shot anymore.
Right.
There's nothing about it is from the original idea that you wanted to get across. It just changes so much, because then they layer on fog and rain and smoke, and so all the little fingers that you tried to adjust are completely, you can't even see them. So I don't know. Yeah, I still enjoy it though. I don't know. It's still good.
And you're on Pinocchio now. Which I guess you can't tell us too much about.
No, I don't know who's here. I can't say anything.
No, you can't say anything.
No.
I can just see there's so many people that there's just loads of faces and I don't know who they are. So Chuck, you're on shutdown for a while. Are you hoping to go back relatively soon?
Yeah, I mean, the West Coast is sort of the 3 states, California, Oregon, and Washington. They're kind of grouped together, so they're trying to figure out when to open up as sort of this unit kind of thing. We're not too bad, actually, on the West Coast. New York and East Coast got hit pretty hard.
I wanted to talk about Star Wars. I thought it'd be a nice thing to look at. Like I say, not because it's the biggest project you've ever done, but because it seems like you've come full circle, like a few other people here, like John Lee and Colin Armitage, and people that, we all grew up loving Star Wars, and a few of you guys were lucky enough to, sort of fulfill that dream of actually being able to work on it, which you must have thought would never happen.
Yeah, I didn't think I would ever be doing stop motion for Star Wars.
No.
I thought that opportunity was long gone,
Yeah. And so how did that, obviously that came through your connection with Phil Tippett. How did that describe how that came about?
Well, when I first started working at Tippett's, I really wasn't connected with Phil at all. He would always be off working on his own project, and I never connected with him. And it was only until I started going in on the weekends and I would help him out on this movie called Mad God that he's been working on for a while. It's like a personal project. And
is that finished?
Yeah, I think he's in post production now. He's just doing sound. So that should be out, hopefully.
And will that get a release, a film release?
Well, it's actually been playing at it played at the Alamo Draft House. It's like a pub, that shows movies, and
yeah.
It's going to get a limited release, I'm sure, somewhere. But I don't know if Phil even cares if it gets released. It's just such a personal endeavor that I think once it's finished, that's it. You know, a lot of us just sort of make movies and we really don't care if they get into festivals or not. We just make a movie and it's the process really of just doing it.
And he's been like trying to get that made for 20 years.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, he actually gave up on it. It was only there was few people in the studio that sort of convinced him to start doing it again. Because
then you kind of got to know him better on that, and the Star Wars thing came along.
Yeah, so that just showed up. J.J. Abrams just called him and said he wanted to use the original puppets, and you know, he wanted Phil Tippett to do it, and so I just happened to be there at that crazy lucky time.
That's what's nice though, because you feel like you know, I really enjoyed the remake, the reboot, or whatever you want to call it, of the latest movies, and going back to kind of the original way of working, shooting on film as well, which was kind of incredible, which seems to be growing, you know, year by year, and making models and puppets and shooting stop frame and doing things the way they were, which ironically kind of George Lucas had given up on all of that when he was a bit strange and made those films. So yeah, I've got a little clip. What I did, Chuck, was I took the clip that you sent me of you working on it, and I found something online, like a little behind the scenes thing, and I've just stitched the two things together, so you kind of get a little chunk of these two clips.
Well, let's start at the beginning. How long did it take us to do it back then? I think it wasn't much more than a week, you know, we had, because they were wrapping everything up.
But it was all a real scramble, and it was right at the tail end of the shooting. And it caught so much attention in the movie, it really surprised me.
And who would have had any idea, none of us had any idea when we were doing this in the first place, what would happen with, you know, with Star Wars and careers and everything like that.
When did we start doing this? We had to go out to the archives because they wanted the original chess set reconstructed. When we finished Star Wars, John Berg and I made a little plaque with like 4 of the characters that we gave to George. And Chris did photogrammetry on those.
We just shot rotations, photogrammetrized it. And then went into ZBrush and fixed them all up.
From those, that was 3D printed, and the molds were made from those guys.
I think there's a charm to the old way of doing it, that because you can relate to it, you can feel it, you can look at it, and there's like an amazement if something's moving by itself. And that still has not been able to be duplicated in CGI.
This was the original puppet that I made when I was a kid that George saw when we were when we were making the Cantina stuff. Wow. And so that gave him the idea to do this as a stop-mo thing. This guy's kind of here. Yep. Stand up.
Now you're playing chess.
So this was the original armature that I had inside the puppet that I made when I was a teenager. So I filleted him and took his armature out, and then Brett Foxwell built a duplicate armature that's going to go inside of the puppet that gets animated for the new chess set. So this was old, this is new.
I think the light will sort of be centered, or it'll all come over here like everything shows up over the form. This is, you know, looks nice. Maybe it needs a little, sort of duplicate that.
This joint right here. Yeah. Remember this? I think these need to be a little tighter.
So he raises up as Greenie is like, he's coming in for him, and he raises up his hammer. So we just aim for that in the first cut.
Very exciting. Look at that.
just as it was.
Are you having a deja vu?
A long time ago, far, far away.
A deep cut deja vu.
So it's not like spaghetti.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I know.
I don't want to take away from this action.
I kind of want to be able to make sure that I'm getting visually to the right mark, because 6 hours from now, when he gets there, it may be something very different.
The chess set's going to come on. Everybody's going to go, yay! There you have it.
That was a great moment when Dennis Muren and John Berg and Phil were all just standing around the chessboard. It was so cool because they, the last time they were around that board was like in 1977, 76. So.
But I can't believe cool. That. Like I've seen Dennis Muren and read stuff and about what he's done. But he's actually just there, like lighting the set, like he kind of must have done.
I think he did. He did. He did touch a couple lights, and I think Phil wanted to bring everybody back and just kind of get their hand somehow, have them touch something, just to kind of make it a solid 40 years or whatever it was.
But he wasn't tempted to animate himself.
He really he just wanted to pass it along. He wanted to be there. He wanted to direct it. He wanted to really get involved. He worked on all the puppets and put that costume back on that big green guy. And he did everything possible except he just passed the animation on, which was really cool and unexpected. I thought he was gonna do it, but
yeah,
he just wanted to pass it along.
I didn't realize that they actually went to until I saw that clip, that they went to the trouble of digging the puppets out, scanning them in 3D, repairing them in 3D, then casting them and making new armatures. That's kind of commitment to getting it exactly as it was.
Yeah, it was. They had to track it down. Who's the director of Lord of the Rings?
Yeah,
it's Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson.
Yeah. Peter I think he had a puppet because he has this huge collection of memorabilia, and I think he had a puppet. So they had to have that boxed up and shipped from Peter Jackson's office.
I wanted to just ask you about stuff that maybe people haven't seen so much, like I've got some clips. I don't know if I've got time to really show them, but it seems like you've been making 16mm black and white movies and shooting stills on film like forever, right?
Yeah, I still shoot film, and I develop it in my bathroom. I even developed 16 in my bathroom. I have this old like World War II film processor.
Oh.
So I've been shooting little clips of 16 millimeter film that I would just run through. It turns out horrible, but it looks great. You know, it's just, it's not, quality is not there, but I mean, it adds, it's the best Instagram filters out there, you know.
The real deal though.
The real deal, yeah.
Not fake stuff. So you've been making stuff with like Mark Gustafson for a while, right? A few of the films I was watching seem to have your involvement.
We're actually going to finish a film that we started in 1987. When I was working at Will Vinton, Mark Gustafson was there and John Ashley. We all got together and we started shooting this film about me being lost in this parking lot. I come home from a trip and I'm trying to find my car, and I get lost in this huge parking lot. And we never finished it. So we're actually going to pick it up again where I age and I'm still in the parking lot. So it'd be like a 40-year cut, I think.
Wow.
So that'll be pretty fun.
And it'll have exactly the same look because you'll be shooting it on black and white 16mm, right?
Yeah. We got to try to find the same costume, but it'll be all rags, and I don't know, maybe I'll grow a beard. I don't know, something. But
I've included so the film Death is a Road to Awe. I included that on the notes, like for a clip that people can click on. Basically, like mysterious clown death accident, which is really funny and it's really funny and really dark at the same time, which feels to me.
Well, that's all Mark Gustafson. That's the way his brain works.
Have you got any other plans to make some more? So you're going to carry on shooting your own stuff?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's plenty of time. That's the worst thing. Right now, there's plenty of time to do something, but I'm not doing anything. You know, like I want to set up a little down shooter or something, and I just watch TV. That's all I do. So
when you say down shoot, do you mean like a rostrum setup?
Yeah, like a 3-panel little clay. Do some clay animation.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Okay. I want you to do that, Chuck.
I know. I do too.
I'm going to check back in with you in a few weeks and see what you've been up to.
All right.
So I want to say to everyone, thanks so much for coming along, and I'm going to stick you back on gallery view here and unmute if you want to ask Chuck a question. So we'll let it run for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, Mal. And tell Billy I'll send some Lego Millennium Falcon pictures.
He wanted you to see this. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah. Very nice. Very good.